In today's video, I want to talk about some interesting news with regards to Intel. There is news and then there is a rumor. Now, if that rumor turns out to be true, that could be a huge turnaround for Intel in the next couple of years. Now, as you know, Intel has been the, let's say, ugly duckling when it comes to the semiconductor space, right? We look at Nvidia, that stock has gone up 10x or whatnot in the last couple of years. You look at AMD, that has become much bigger than Intel from a market cap's perspective. And then you look at Intel in the last 3 years. Well, in the last 3 years, the stock is down 45.6%. And year to date, it's down closer to 50%. Now, in the last 3 months, we have seen some movement on the upside with regards to the stock. And some people are even saying that if you look at the options, that, well, there is a lot of optimism right now with regards to Intel. Of course, 3 months ago, more than 3 months ago right now, we've had that horrible Q2 quarter and a guide. Now, I covered the last quarter. By the way, of course, I'm biased when I talk about Intel, but I'm also realistic. I hold shares and I don't expect a huge turnaround to happen just like that. It will take time, and I do think that Pat is the right CEO for Intel. You need an engineer when you're talking about an engineering company. That has been lacking previously. Previously, they were all about paying a dividend and buying back shares, not really talking about AI or investing in AI or anything like that. And so Pat came in, laid down the plans here, 5 nodes, 4 years. We're on track to reach that. I don't think a lot of people understand how big of a deal that is. Now, of course, there were some slip-ups here and there, but to turn a company like Intel around, such a huge company, it's taking a while. It's not something that happens in a year or two. That's why he was talking about 5 nodes, 4 years. When we talk about chip designs, chip manufacturing, and all of that, foundry, these are things that take time. From the design until you actually get it, it takes time. That's why when we talk about Nvidia, for example, yes, it's true that all the hyperscalers are designing their own chips. But to catch up to Nvidia, it's going to take a long time because one, Nvidia is not standing still. No, they are going to work on the next one, right? Blackwell, then Rubin. I mean, that company is moving ahead and ahead. So yes, the other companies are also starting the same marathon, but it takes time. It's not a game of, oh, I see your nice product. In a couple of months, I'll have the same one. No, that's not how things work in the semiconductor space. So with Intel, it takes some time. And yes, of course, it just happened to be the worst time to turn a company around because everything else just went super quickly for AMD and Nvidia. So enough with the BS here. Let's talk about what has been happening right now. If you enjoy this type of videos, hit all the buttons, like, subscribe, do all of that. If you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment with the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. So news item number 1 here is that finally, we've got Intel and the Commerce Department close to finalizing roughly $8 billion CHIP Act grant. The $8 billion will go towards Intel's factory building efforts, the person said. The Commerce Department is expected to finalize the award in the coming weeks. And of course, we've touched on that. Intel is also in line for a $3 billion contract to manufacture chips for the Department of Defense. Now, to be honest, this whole thing here is taking way too long. I mean, I believe TSM, which is not an American company, already got their money, which is a bit less than the 8 billion, but still, why are they putting Intel dead last? It just doesn't make much sense, especially not after they've been spending billions and billions on manufacturing and investing in the United States. And of course, with the new president coming into the White House in January, well, some political moves are probably being made right now, right? Making sure that these things still happen under a certain president, and then we'll see what happens with the next one. It's a shame because, well, we need a diversified supply chain. We cannot just rely solely on that island near China. Now, continuing here on the news, but this is more of a rumor, and this is a pretty big one. So, rumor claims 2026 bound A20 Pro chipset could be built by Intel. Apple's iPhone 17 series is expected to be powered by the A19 chipsets when it arrives next year. Said chipsets are slated to be built by TSMC, but a new rumor now claims that the A20 system on chips, bound to launch with the iPhone 18 series in 2026, they may ditch TSMC in favor of Intel. Of course, we previously know that Apple did use Intel for the PCs, but this could be a huge move if, of course, if it were true. Now, why could this make sense? Well, on the one side, we've got this right here. TSM's 2nm process will reportedly get another price hike, $30,000 per wafer for latest cutting edge tech. 2nm to cost 2x more than a 4nm and 5nm. So from a Apple's margins perspective, maybe going with Intel if the technology, of course, is good, makes sense. Because, well, if TSM, which of course they can raise the prices since, well, they basically dominate the market as of right now. But with Intel Foundry becoming a bit more serious, remember Intel also has the latest ASML machine, something that TSMC has received but is not yet operationally ready. Something that Intel has a lead on, and that will definitely help them with 18A. With regards to 18A, they announced two major innovations: a new transistor and backside power. I think everybody's looking at the transistor of TSM's N2 versus 18A. It's not clear that one is dramatically better than the other. We'll see who's best. But the backside power delivery, everybody says Intel score. You are years ahead of the competition. That's powerful. That's meaningful. It gives better area efficiency for silicon, which means lower cost. It gives better power delivery, which means higher performance. We also had some comments from a former senior manager at Samsung Semiconductor, who now is inside Intel, by the way, so you might say, okay, he might be biased here, but he said the following with regards to 18A. The technology is there. There's absolutely no doubt from what I've seen, it is really doable. What they lack is they have been so isolated from the foundry world and how semiconductors world works that the challenge is this uphill battle here. To me, the technology is just way too good. The strategy was right to move to 18A, really put all their eggs in 18A basket. That's the right strategy. That, as I mentioned, is the place where Nvidia, AWS, and some of these big players can see the differentiation versus TSMC. Will they be able to have systems in place? Will they be able to have PDK development not for internal? They know how to do PDK for internal chips, but that's a very different ball compared to developing a PDK for external customer. That's the challenge. The design service and design enablement is still fairly weak at Intel right now, but the technology is just way too good. I think personally, if I compare all the gate-around architecture, Intel's one is there. I think it's going to succeed. So of course, the big question here is, should Intel maybe hire someone that does know, or hire a couple of guys that do know a lot more about, well, the foundry world, maybe poach some guys from TSMC. One last thing here, and this is something from a couple of weeks ago, Intel's next generation Panther Lake CPUs are ready. First 18A client product handed over to Lenovo by CEO Pat Gelsinger during Tech World 2024. So yeah, things are going in the right direction. Lenovo is certainly not a small player in the game. So if he's comfortable giving the Lenovo guys already the first sample, then they must be pretty confident that things look quite good. Now, it's all great to hear about those reports, this executive talking, this guy talking, some rumors, some news here and there. That's great. But at the end of the day, we have to be realistic, right? We have to look at what Intel does report every 3 months, see revenue going up, yes or no. Margins going up, yes or no. How's guidance looking? How's the progress looking with the foundry business? Etc, etc. So, okay, it's all great right now and definitely helps the momentum of the stock, right? Because as you can see, since the lows here of the $19, we've seen some solid momentum with the stock. RSI is going up, and now, well, now we're going to try and make our way up to close that earnings gap from back in July, that huge drop, horrible quarter and guidance. The momentum is definitely with Intel stock right now, still very low, $25.14. I didn't say cheap, I said low. So yeah, to end this video, I don't want to get your hopes up too soon, or myself included, but it does seem like 2025 could be a good Intel year, or especially a very important one. So that's all I've got for you right now. Do share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Yes, I will make a video about AMD in the next couple of days, maybe for tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Like, subscribe, do all of that, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.